It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. This week, starring special guest star Miss Brooke Ferri. Yay! She's back. And thank you, fake band. Thank you, fake audience. Welcome back, Brooke.
Welcome, real person.
Whoops.
Hey.
And that was Paul Schaefer. Let's see. I'm just making sure everything's working this week because we were having technical difficulties up the wazoo last week. How's the audio on the receiving end this week, you guys? No slapback kind of stuff going on?
Nobody's answering. They can't hear you.
There's Doug, Adriana, Carl, Ed, Linda, Glenn.
Nobody's telling
Burrell.
us about the audio. Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yay.
Okay.
All right. So for those of you who weren't with us last time Brooke was here, the short version is Brooke went to law school and then said, screw it, I don't want to be a lawyer. So she went to work for a really awesome music library, was there for a while. Ended up here on our A&R team, threw a kid in, well, she didn't throw the kid, but she had a kid in there at some point, little boy. They should make that an Olympic sport, shot putting your children. Anyway, I'm just kidding. And then she's been here for a little over 5 years. And she also has her own catalog. So that's the short version. We're glad to have her back. She is one of our all-time greatest screeners. She can handle many genres really, really well. And that's hard to find. And she is a bona fide expert on film and TV music and generally just knows what cool music is. So,
thank you.
Yeah, there you are. You're back. We're excited.
I like it.
So today we've got 16 songs and instrumentals. We're going to try and get through them. We're going to try and do the quick version like we did with Robin a few weeks ago because you guys like the pacing of that, so we won't go too in-depth on them. I will let you know the song title or instrumental title and whether it's a song or an instrumental. We will comment and then move on. We will try and get some Q&A in toward the end. We may slip the occasional question in. And as always, because I will forget to show you later, subscribe. Right. Right there. Hit that little button. Subscribe. It looks kind of like that. And then after you do that, make sure you like us. And then if you have any friends at all, share this. Send it to your grandmother.
Even people who don't like you.
That's right. Because if they already don't like you, this will seal the deal.
This will change their minds.
That's right.
Like, you were so cool.
Yeah, you shared all this wonderful information with me. So, without any further ado, because people tell me that I yammer too much at the top of the show, but it's entertainment, at least in my mind. Let's start out. This is a song. It's called Have You Noticed the Season? Let's have a listen.
Spoiler alert, it's Christmas.
Have you noticed the season? Even the buildings seem to glow. But if you need a reason, I'll find a mistletoe. Dance with me now, here in the snow. I promise it won't be just for show, as the carolers sing. Fa la 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 la. Have you noticed the season? Just look up above. each star that is twinkling, since this is the season of love. Dance with me now, here in the snow. I promise it won't be just for show, as the carolers sing. La 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 la. Late in the year, with a new start, glad tidings and cheer, straight from the heart. La 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 la.
Yay! Can you believe it? Christmas music already. We're not even in May.
Never too soon. We've actually done a couple. I've done a couple of Christmas listings already this year.
I know, and people have been, the companies have apologized when they sent us the listing. Like, I know it's early.
Really?
We'll
I know
take
one
them.
was for a film, so
Yeah,
that obviously that could happen anytime. But I mean, I think it's definitely a Christmas song, which is nice. I mean, no, here's the no. I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, so obvious. But here's the thing: like sometimes it's like, well, it's kind of a Christmas
Right.
song, you know. It is melodically, it is lyrically, it is instrumentally, without like bashing over the head with like sleigh bells.
Right.
you
Oh,
know?
and I appreciate that because virtually, 90% of all Christmas music that gets submitted to us has sleigh bells.
Yeah.
It's like we wouldn't know if the bells weren't there.
Right. I mean, and the problem is, I mean, they do give you that distinct Christmas sound, but it's also nice if you can find other ways to do it. So just like quick things that I jotted down at the very beginning. I'm sure if it was a horn or a clarinet. Did you hear that?
Yeah,
coming
I
out?
saw your
It sounded
reaction. You-
really hot. I was like, what's going on back
I was
there?
checking to make sure things are working
Yeah.
over there, and I saw you look at me like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
So I think that could have just been because they didn't hear anything else, didn't hear that again. But in the beginning, something sounded really like sharp. So maybe just listen to that. I don't know. But I mean, I love the female vocals. So pretty. Her voice sounds so contemporary, but contemporary in a way that's still going to work for a Christmas song. And then it's going to be like universally appealing. It can kind of just, it could sit like in the background of a show or an advertisement just to kind of add that feeling of holiday. But it could also, like, it could hold its own, I think. I thought the melody was really cute. I personally, when I heard the fa la 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 la, like, I didn't love it personally because I'm like, this is an original song. I don't want to hear someone else's song in your song. I want to hear your song. So I feel like we got the idea. If we hear carolers, any fa la la melody, I think will get the gist across. But
I
like,
have
that's me. What do you think?
Well, I have a question about the fa la 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 because I'm not sure if it's public domain, the song that it comes from is PD or not.
Yeah, you have to check for sure.
If let's assume for the sake of argument that it's not PD, would the original creator be compensated in any way for the use of the fa la la la? Are they significant enough to the lyric and the melody of this piece of music that they would have to be cut in on the
I
copyright?
would say so. Yeah.
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 one is public.
It is it. Okay.
Oh, it is.
So
Okay, well,
doesn't
for the
matter.
sake of not argument, Bria, Bria, let us know.
But I
that
mean, it's good. It's a good thing to think about. That
Yeah.
yes, if it wasn't, that would absolutely be an issue, and most likely the supervisor is just going to go next because they don't want to deal with the hassle.
right. And just so you guys know, a lot of the databases that show public domain work online are not 100% accurate 100% of the time. So it's always a good idea to double check. If you're going to check if something is PD, check it out in one database and go to another one. I've actually found disagreements among them and had to do quite a bit of research. Doesn't happen often, but it happens more than you would think. All right. Oh, by the way, when you were speaking of the female vocal, what was the movie where Leo DiCaprio played? It was a true story about a guy who was kiting checks all over the place.
Oh yeah.
Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can. And there's a scene where Leo falls in love with this young nurse, and he is staying at her parents' house. And Martin Sheen plays the father. I believe he's a lawyer or a judge or something, and just wholesome as can be. And the husband and wife, who are probably in their 50s, early 60s in the movie, they would get together for Mitch Miller on Sunday nights. Very wholesome thing. But there's a scene where Martin Sheen and the lady playing his wife are in the kitchen, and they're like tush to tush, swinging back and forth as she's washing, he's drying. It was just like classic, early, very late 1950s Americana, a slice of that. This would have worked great in that scene. It's that kind of vibe because of that female vocal. It's wholesome.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Not that wholesome is ever bad. Okay, the next one is called Blazing Trails. This is adult contemporary.
I'm running underneath the great big evergreens. It's raining. I don't care, outside is where I want to be. I'm climbing up a hill to mountain tops. I'm facing the sum of all my fears. Grab a hand, now come with me. You won't be sorry. Blazing trails into paradise. Headed places only we can see. Blazing trails into paradise. Get fun, come along with me. Adventure is calling out to you and me tonight. Let's do this. Life is on the other side. Grab a hand, now come with me. You won't be sorry. Blazing trails into paradise. Heaven places only we can see. Blazing trails into paradise. Get your brave on, come along with me. We're rushing toward a waterfall. Who knows where it might take us?
Good.
We're rushing toward a waterfall. Let's live on the edge tonight. We're rushing toward a
Okay. What say you? Wow, look at that. Just
Oh,
so you know, I
yeah.
left a bunch of blank white
Oh,
paper
good.
there.
It's a
'cause I
good thing
think-
because
Yeah, you're going to need it.
just because otherwise I'm gonna forget what I'm talking about. I'm gonna start talking about one thing and then I'm gonna lose my train of thought and then talk about something totally random. So like as the song goes, the vocals get better and better and better, and then the end you're like screeching and it's awesome, but they don't start out as consistent to me. I felt like the first verse, I felt like it was, I mean, obviously I'm sure it wasn't sung in one take, but it kind of felt like she was warming up, and then they got really great. I feel like the beginning doesn't quite show how good the vocals are going to get as the song progresses. The first thing that struck me is he said AC, and I don't hear this as adult contemporary at all, which is, it doesn't matter, but it matters. It matters because you need to know like what other people are going to think and like where it's going to fit for listings.
What would you say it is?
It's rock, I would say, mostly. I mean, as soon as the song starts, I hear the guitars and I think rock. I definitely don't think AC, but I don't totally hear your vocal going, guitar rock. I do hear the vocal maybe having a little bit more AC.
There's a conflict.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a stylistic conflict. I definitely think so. For adult contemporary, I mean, starting off with like a piano foundation is probably going to get you more of that sound. But I think with the melodic rhythms here, I don't think piano would work. I think the song's too fast. So I think there's, a question of, do you want to change the melody a little bit, get a little more soaring, a little more of those like big AC arcs, which I think could fit your vocal really nicely. But then I think you're going to need to change that down and then probably move to more piano based rather than guitar. The other option is work for a slightly more rock vocal style. I think either one would work, but it just sort of depends on what the writer's more comfortable with. This song demands a lot of attention, which for licensing is great when it's the right moment, but there are less of them than there are everything else.
Let's talk about that briefly. This is something I love to bring up. I wrestle with it when I'm looking at our listing sometimes, and the listing will say, looking for a killer song. A lot of times you don't want a killer song, because if the song is the star, the dialogue and the story and the actors go away, you want to, in most cases, want to support.
Exactly.
Versus...
Yeah. I mean, it's like I was watching Designated Survivor last night, and they had a Simon and Garfunkel song in, and it's at the moment where like the dun 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 moment, and then you know what I mean, and then just the song plays over, a little bit of sort of summing up the episode. I'm like, that's the moment where you are gonna first of all spend that much money, but second of all, we're gonna have a song that is going to make everyone go, I'm going to listen to the song now, not pay, and because you don't need to be really paying attention to what's going on. This song would have to be in a moment like that where you're really paying attention. Now, the nice thing is that lyric, Blazing Trails, would work in a moment where there's something like that is happening in a show, like a war show or something where there, like lots of action and lots of energy. But then the question is style. Like, what style is a show that's going to have a big blasting song moment? What style is going to work more? And I would say right now it would probably be more indie rock would be what you would expect to hear. Or, I mean, for this song, the other option obviously would be like, a big, huge pop song. But
and lyrically, this is very, underneath the great big evergreens, it's raining, I don't care, outside is where I want to be. I mean, this is, put on your hiking boots, go to the top of the mountain kind of thing. So lyrically, it's got this whole kind of nature thing. It's talking about a waterfall in there and paradise.
Lyrically, this is like Rome by Will, what's his name? Will Mimnow? Will
Got
Mimnow.
me.
Yeah.
I'm old, I don't know that one.
It's a good song. They use it in like a Discover Canada commercial or something like that, yeah. But yeah, it totally has that. When you look at it, I'm hearing acoustic guitars and hand claps and oohs and ahs.
Yeah, it's nature, not anthemic.
Yeah.
But it is treated as anthemic. So again, more disconnect.
Yeah.
The whole time I was listening, I thought, well, the vocal's good, or I like that guitar sound. There were all these good aspects, but I kept feeling like it was fighting itself.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right. Also, I made another note that may be moot, but the mix just didn't feel very well balanced at all.
I
The
wrote the
vocal
same
was
thing.
very up front,
The vocal
and there
was
was
way
no
too far
bottom.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote the exact same thing.
Bria, here, I asked Bria to remind me about this. Because we're talking about songs for film, we're doing instrumentals as well. But, look, this is a shameless promotion. I make a couple bucks if you buy this, but there is no other book on the market about writing songs for film and TV. And there is so much about doing songs for film and TV that's different than just doing songs. Brooke and I were talking before the show went live about... You don't want to call up or email or run into a music supervisor and go, I've got this awesome song, you need to hear it because it's just awesome. Yeah. Because they're not looking for awesome, they're looking for right. Yeah. And right is within the context of what they're working on right now. Yeah. So if you want to understand how to write songs that are more applicable to more situations, because that's what you want, stuff that is applicable That's why you always see the phrase universal lyrics. You want lyrics that could be applied to a commercial for ladies' shoes, or it could be girls' night out in a 20-something movie, which would involve shoes,
Right.
because they have to walk. Anyway, that book, Shortcuts to Songwriting for Film and TV, it's on Amazon.
And I don't make any money off of that book, and you should still buy it.
Thank
It's
you,
good.
Brooke.
No, I read it. I read it when I first started working here, and it's really helpful. It's really well done.
Robin
Perfect.
Robin
What's
Frederick,
Robin?
who's the author. She's freakish about doing research. I mean, she's literally obsessive in a good way. I mean, it's not an unhealthy obsession, but that woman will dig so deep on stuff. And I think that I've worked on records where I didn't put that much thought into what she does with songs.
She's great with lyrics. If you're thinking, what does universal lyrics really mean? Is
Yeah.
that really important? Do I really have to do that? That's too hard. Definitely check out her stuff, because she'd be like, I can universal you forever. Like 87 different
It's
ways
true.
to do one thing. It's pretty crazy.
She is awesome, and she's really good at ferreting out examples of the points that she's trying to make. All right, moving on to this one is an instrumental. This is called Tickled Pink 2, as in TOO. I take this to bed with me at night. I'm pathetic. All right, what'd you think about that?
I'm not going to touch that comment at all.
Pretty exciting, if our, what do you call that little hockey puck thing that talks to me? Not Siri.
Oh, Alexa.
Yeah, Alexa. How people are worried that Alexa's listening in to
She
people's
is.
private lives. Well, just going to hear me talking to my iCarly soundbox. Nothing exciting at the Lasco residence. Okay.
I was reading some of the comments, and somebody said something about the drums, which I kind of agree with. They got, especially in like the second, third, the drum beat got a little too complicated, and they just kind of started sounding heavy.
Great for a live show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, like, good
Yeah.
drumming, but
Yeah.
way too busy.
Yeah, way too busy. Especially this kind of, just guitar-driven, feel-good song. This is non-scripted television. This is something where there's going to be people talking, and there's going to be voiceover on top of the talking, and there's going to be so much going on, and it's going to sit really quietly down below, and with all those drums, it's not going to work. But I think it should be pretty simple to fix because the guitars sound really good. What I love is that it sets the mood and then does something else and then does something else. Like in the first 30 seconds, I've already gone through like 4 things, which is really good because in a lot of cases, they're going to use 30 seconds because in 30 seconds, something else has happened and they're going to use another cue. So it's such a hard, line of it can't be frenetic and it can't be too complicated and you can't have too much going on, but it has to move really fast. It's like, that's pretty annoying. But but they do that in the beginning, and it's that idea of like just simply adding something else,
Right,
it can be
one
done
more
so
instrument,
simply,
yeah.
adding one more little thing, and it doesn't have to be a complicated thing, just adding that one little riff or just dropping one thing out and then bringing another thing in, and it's really simple changes, but it keeps it moving.
No sleigh bells.
Oh, sleigh bells. I think then the first 30 works really well, but then I think it could jump and then we could get something new a little bit sooner than it takes to get to the next kind of movement, if you will. I don't know, the next section. There's like a little kind of lead plucky thing that I think you could use even more. Good for home improvement shows, travel shows.
Fixer Upper.
Yeah, I wrote DIY,
Yeah.
HGTV, totally.
Yep, absolutely. When they do the reveal, that's great reveal music. Walking through the house for the first time.
Yes.
I've got the fluttering eyelid again. Can you guys see
Oh,
that?
I hate.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate
And of course, it's on
that.
your side. So if you're looking at me and you see going, try not to be distracted.
I'm making Michael's eye twitch, guys.
That's right. I heard a sound in there that was what I would call a fatal sound. It was dated sounding. I think it was a keyboard part. And it just sounded so like 1988. And I know it seems ridiculous to think that somebody would be sitting there in a post-production situation listening to a piece of music going, yeah, this really works well in the scene. It amplifies the emotion. It keeps the scene moving forward. It's a breath of fresh, ooh, oh, man, no, can't use it because that sound. But that does happen because they want stuff, most of the time, they want stuff that sounds contemporary, fresh, modern, not like, 1988. So that one sound to me was a problem.
It was kind of a little wah-wah-y almost, kind of.
I can't remember. I just remember it was somewhere probably a minute or so into it, and I went, huh?
Yeah, it didn't work with the style either. I
Yeah,
felt like this
right.
is a guitar song, it should just have lots of layered guitars, and that just felt a little.
Yeah, if it gets your attention and
yeah.
it pulls you out of the track kind of
Yeah.
doing its thing.
And I think what you're saying is like, somebody's sitting there and going, oh, that one sound is going to pull them out. Like, no, they don't do that. I think, here's the thing. I don't think they're necessarily going to think, ooh, that feels like a little too 80s, or that has this kind of tone. I don't want it. But they're going to think, that's not right.
Right.
They
may not have the musical vocabulary to even know what's wrong. They just know that it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah.
Because we're like musical geniuses. We know everything. She does. Somebody mentioned in the chat, and I want to bring this up, and no, I don't make money on this. Writing production music for TV by Steve Barden. He's been on the show a couple of times. It's a great book. Again, I never endorse anything I don't believe in. Buy that book. Okay, moving on. Let's go to number 4, which is They Call It Wonderful. It's a singer-songwriter song.
You give me goosebumps when you give that goofy grin. When I'm upside down, you put me right side up again. I wonderful. Been waiting all day long to see you. I've been waiting all my life to hold you. I got that feeling that is marvelous and magical. I got that feeling and they call it wonderful. I got that feeling that is marvelous and magical. Yeah, I got that feeling and they call it wonderful.
Lay it on us.
I think ukulele, claps, stomps. Yes, yes, yes. All works. I'm thinking singer-songwriter,
I've got just the pop.
advertising. I'm thinking they call it wonderful. It all totally makes sense. I don't think the vocals quite work stylistically. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I totally scared me. I see this thing hanging down. I'm like, I'm really nervous.
Happy clappy.
Where did that come from?
One of our
And why
members
do you
built
keep
this
it?
by hand.
Oh my
and
gosh.
sent
It's
it
a
in.
pool cue.
Yes, it is. He built this by hand, sent it to me disassembled. What's Dave's last name? I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember. If I knew who, I wouldn't need to know.
It doesn't say on the.
Oh, you know what? It probably does. First of all, it says Happy Clappy Q, presented to Michael Laska in recognition of 25th anniversary of Taxi. Thank you for founding, blah, blah, blah. Dave, I can't remember your last name because I'm in the moment. Anyway, Dave made this by hand. And Happy Clappy because that was a Happy Clappy Q.
Oh, it's got a mic bag holding it together. How
Right,
cute.
exactly.
think
Anyway,
I
I'm
have
so
that-
sorry to
I have
interrupt,
that
but I just,
bag.
it's not that often you get to break out a Happy Clappy Q. Anyway, Brooke, would you
Anyway.
like to continue?
Sure, after that. Upstage, man. I felt like the melody was a little too sing-songy for contemporary sound. Like, because people are like writing like Oreos, Target, and I totally agree with all of those. And by the way, someone wrote fun-filled for an Oreos thing. That's a really cute idea. But here's the thing about that. That would be so cute, right? But then that's the only thing the song could work for, so don't do that. You know, I mean, unless somebody is paying you to do it for Oreos.
Right.
Because then I guess fun-filled. No, I guess it would be okay.
You know, it's really, I know
Wonder-filled. You were saying wonder-filled instead of wonderful. Yeah, wonder-filled.
the woman who wrote I Want to Be a Toys R Us Kid, I actually know her. Well, I used to know her when I worked in New York doing audio post. She was the vice president of one of the big ad agencies, and she wrote that song. And now Toys R Us is going to be gone. It's an American institution.
Well,
Damn.
they're trying to save it. I think there's even like a GoFundMe page to save Toys R Us. It's
Yes, we have to have
nuts.
some place where our kids can throw stuff all over the aisles.
It's called Target.
That's a wild night out for the Lasco family. Saturday night around 9 o'clock, we go to Target. What can I say?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Vocals, I think, could be more contemporary. I think there's a little too much style in the vocal. Because, like, I feel like when I'm writing critiques, I always have such a hard time I feel like I've never explained that well enough of what that means your vocal doesn't sound contemporary. And a lot of it has to do with, like, now, especially with this kind of like ukulele singer-songwriter, the vocal is very simple. It's very conversational. It's very light and doesn't have like training behind it. It doesn't feel like singing.
This was
this is
the
a
Lennon sisters almost. You know, who did Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy? Bette Midler did one, but I think there was an earlier version. Yeah, I mean, in the context of that, it was pretty well executed, and I think that may have been what they went for in this. Yeah. But you're right, against Happy Clappy.
The stomp and then the breakdown with all the percussion. I felt like the vocal was great with something more on stylistically like that. But with this, it needed something that sounded a little drier, I guess, like both style wise and mix wise.
Yeah, incongruous.
Yeah. A little bit. I thought the breakdown thing was a fun idea, but I think it needed one more element for focus. Like to me, it's the moment where like everyone's singing and they stop and like some guy tap dances or something like that. But it's a song, so you can't have the tap dancing guy. But it needed that one focus. It felt like it was missing. I've been screening for like 5 hours, guys. I apologize.
The tap dancing guy.
It needed one more element to me to make it feel finished. It felt like something was missing.
It also felt twice as long as it probably should have
Probably.
been. If you had that other element introduced halfway through, it could have gone that long.
Yeah.
But because it didn't, it's like, okay, we know that trick.
Right, we got it. Yeah. Kind of.
I've got to say, it had an aspect of it that I thought was really good, which is it was a universal lyric. And that was really cool. And it sounds like it could work for advertising. I kept thinking, this is a commercial for when somebody walks through the door and their dog greets them. Just as happy as can be. I've been waiting all day long to see you. I've been waiting all my life to hold you.
Oh, even from the dog's point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dog is waiting for the human to come home.
Yeah,
Totally.
exactly. You give me goosebumps when you give that goofy grin. When I'm upside down, you put me right side up again. I've got that feeling that is marvelous and magical. I've got that feeling, and they call it wonderful. Those are good universal lyrics.
Definitely.
Because it doesn't give anything too specific. It's about describing a feeling.
Yeah, and this feeling could be from a dog, from a product, from a person, from a store, from a service. Totally. Whoever wrote this, go watch some dog food commercials and see what they do. I'm not making a joke. That's what happens when you make too many jokes and they never take you seriously. No, but there is a really specific sound for those kind of commercials.
Yeah.
And there is the claps, definitely the happy clappy thing definitely works, but they're really organic sounding. Those songs, for the most part, are really... They're very raw and stripped down and very natural sounding.
You could take this happy clappy track and just have a single voice doing it, and it would work for that kind of commercial, a Purina commercial where the kid comes home from school and that dog is just so tickled pink.
Yeah.
You know, the dog is waiting with the stick in its mouth. Okay. We are making good progress. How are we doing on time? 4:38. Okay. Moving on to, this is a pop song and it's called Make a Move.
I've been searching for what I've been missing, but I've been keeping my eyes down the road. So I've been lonely. Won't you come and hold me? I know we're both scared of letting go. I need you to make a move. Oh baby, just give me a sign. I need you to make a move. Help me read in between the lines. I'll find
got an extra little woo out of there.
Ooh. They knew. They could tell. They
Yeah.
could tell that it was a really good structure on the chorus. iCarly knew. But that is like one thing I wanted to say like, right away before I forget to say it is a lot of times when I'm especially doing pop, I'm talking so much with the listings about like chorus structure because it's so important and it's so specific right now. And this structure on this chorus is so good. It's like we get the hook right at the top, so we know what the hook's going to be. Then, you know, there's a contrasting line. But then we get the hook again with a variation. Then there's a big contrast in the middle. So we lose that, we've got that pattern of those first 4 lines. And then when she breaks the pattern, so we feel it's not going to become repetitive.
Right.
So we could totally go another direction. And then she comes back to the pattern and ends on the hook. So it's like bookended, get the hook enough, but you get contrast so it doesn't become boring. It's like...
It's almost like there's a little mini bridge within the chorus. It serves, those 2 lines serve the same purpose as a bridge, and it works beautifully. I thought
good.
the execution on that was spectacularly good.
Structurally, it reminds me a lot of Halsey. I feel like because her choruses, I feel like are really well structured like that. It's like Halsey on Prozac. I don't know. It's much happier. I love her. Don't get me wrong, but her stuff is, you know, is a little moodier than this. But you know what I like about this is that I think.
Halsey on Prozac. You are the first person in the history of humanity to ever say Halsey on Prozac.
I'm sorry,
other
no,
than
that's
maybe her
gonna
doctor.
Get posted. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying
right.
that. I love you. You're amazing. Don't be any different. Be dark and moody. That's the best.
That's right. It was a compliment.
Compliment to both of you. Because Ozzy's definitely watching. I love the simple guitar at the top. It sets the mood for the song. It doesn't get in the way of the vocals. The verse is really well structured. You don't give us much more on the chorus, which for pop, you know, but I think you manage. I think it's okay. I think that the chorus is good enough and your voice is good enough and that the vocal production is good enough that it's just mellow and it's okay. The chorus. I feel like the second verse needed something else.
Yeah, I made a note. Does it sound like a demo? It's too stripped down. And
Yeah.
it does work in the first half of the song. Even just to bring in a bass.
Yeah.
Doing whole notes or a cello or
Ooh,
a
a cello.
piano, anything. Just it needed a second thing.
It did. Definitely did. As soon as I thought, okay, you're going to get away with it on the chorus, but then on the first chorus. Because you can get away with it, but then on the second verse, I felt like it starts to feel circular because you don't give us anything else. We don't get that developmental arc. And the melody is good enough. I mean, for a demo, Banana's good. Like, definitely good enough.
Yeah.
But I think it needs something else. And I think you could just plop a couple things in, like you said, a cymbal bass, something really easy. And I think that would take it to the next level. There's something a little country in the chorus, which I actually think is really cool because like I'm all about, you know, get as much out of your songs as you can because they take forever to write, they take forever to produce. So really, like there's no harm in having like, you know, a bunch of different versions of a song if it makes sense. And I think you could up the production on this and really bring it into a pop genre. And I think you could also get some different kind of guitars going on there and twang your vocals a little bit. And I feel like there's a little Southern influence in there. And I think you could take it further. And I think it could be really good as a pop country song. And then you have multiple ways to pitch it. You can pitch it for country artists, for pop artists, and for film and television, but probably film and television, probably not the country version. Just there's not as many opportunities.
Lyrically, could work in so many. The thought in the chorus, the story or narrative in the chorus is so universal. Well, and it may not be universal, but it's an often heard story. In you know, like coming of age films, millennial stuff, young falling in love, you know, are you going to make the move? When are we going to know if we're friends or more? Just great and really good execution on the lyrical aspect of that. Very applicable for a lot of stuff. But yeah, I made a note, said 2 stripped down, ? Sounds like a demo, but only the second half.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Hope is Alive. This is a singer-songwriter song.
sun comes up on another city day. The streets echo the sounds of children as they play. When a voice calls to me, calls from deep inside, saying, hope is alive. These city blues can often bring you down. Takes all you have, then throws you to the ground. Then you make up in your mind you will survive. Hope is alive. Hope is alive. When the sun shines or a newborn baby cries, hope knows that hope will survive. Hope is alive. Yes, every day we walk these roads unknown. The journey may be long, but we never walk alone. My brothers and sisters will walk with me, with God as our guide. Hope is alive. Don't you know that hope is alive? When the sun shines or a newborn baby cries, hope knows that hope will survive. Hope is alive. As we wish on that brightest star at night, we pray that we be spared the morning light. This grace that brought us far, by grace we shall survive. Hope is alive. Don't you know that hope is alive? When the sun shines or a newborn baby cries, hope knows that hope will survive. Hope is alive. Don't you know that hope is?
Bria's reading my mind. I look over, give her a little nod. She starts to fade. She had her finger on the fader already. How'd you feel about that?
How did I feel? So what threw me is that you said singer-songwriter, and it's not singer-songwriter in my opinion at all.
Yeah.
I mean, saxophone's great. All the instrumentation is good. All the instrumental performances are really good. The vocals are pretty good. I mean, the piano sounds really good. The guitar at first sounded a little unconnected to me in the mix, but once everything else came in, I forgot about it. So I'm assuming that means it sounded better. It didn't bother me anymore. Yeah, definitely it didn't come across as singer-songwriter. This, I would say, more like 80s, 70s, 80s influence, kind of, like a piano power pop kind of worship spiritual. There's a lot of different genres that I'm writing down. I'm writing down Lionel Richie and then Stevie Wonder and then Elton John, and then I'm kind of like, oh, it's like a worship song, and then
it's dated. It doesn't suck. It's actually kind of good. But it is dated. And
I'm sorry.
I've got to say, I had the thought. We're starting to reach out to more people making faith-based movies because they tend to use stuff that's for an older demographic. They generally don't look for super hip music. Not that they put bad music in, but they don't look for super young, hip.
Well, that's not who they're marketing to.
Right, exactly. So we actually had an A&R meeting about a week ago, and we talked about reaching out to more faith-based movie producers, which we are currently doing. And I could hear this in one of those. The vocal sounded a little shaky at points.
Yeah.
So I would work on the vocal more.
Yeah.
But I too love the instrumentation. I think there's a B3 in there. I like the way the track felt, but the saxophone right at the top
Yes.
just like held up a sign that says, I'm dated. Unfortunately, right now we're going through a saxless period where saxophones, I'm sorry, Paulie. Paulie's in there and he's Mr. Saxophone, but they are not in vogue. And to have it right at the top of the song was like holding up a sign saying, this is going to be dated. So it just eliminates a lot of possibilities, but the song itself is pretty darn good.
Yeah, the song is. I think if you did up the worship feel of the song, with the chorus, like putting in more vocals, putting in more of kind of not gospel, but close to more of a gospel sort of church feel. So you really feel you're there with a choir singing.
It's a great universal thought. Hope is alive.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to. I find that the hook gets overused in the chorus. There isn't enough to me in the verse lyrics to support why we need to say the chorus so many times. No, I'm saying like if like there's really like all this bad stuff going on in the verse, then the chorus needs to really say hope is alive. Don't worry, hope is alive. But I don't get that throughout the verse as much. So I feel like if you had all those additional vocals, first it would help the lead vocal not feel so shaky. Second, it would help that hook. The lyric itself wouldn't be as important, because what's important is all of those vocals coming together and all those people singing together, and it's going to give it more impact, and it's also going to allow you more variation on that hook. Like as it repeats each time, you have different harmonies coming in and out, and it makes it feel new each time.
I had a little issue, and then we'll move on. With the verse lyric, as the sun comes up on another city day, the streets echo the sounds of children as they play. Then a voice calls to me, calls from far away, saying, hope is alive. These city blues can often so you go from the joyful sounds of children playing to the city blues. How did we get there? When did that happen? Why did that happen?
Doesn't quite track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
I know it probably feels like we're picking it apart. We are, in a good way. We want it to be great. There's some awesomeness in there. We're just trying to help you find it and elevate it. Also, the hope is alive contributed to the datedness of it. Hope is alive, not alive.
Yeah.
Just I don't even know what you call that, but it was noticeable to me. Anyway, there was a lot of good stuff in there, and it wouldn't take a whole lot to make it even more better. Moving on, this is number 7, a warm and cozy acoustic cue. I bet it's an instrumental.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's the title, a warm and cozy acoustic cue. I realize there's a slight hesitation on your applause because you're waiting for iCarly to join in, but that's okay. You can do it on your own. All right, how'd you feel about that?
So at the end I was kind of like do because the little riff, the little guitar riff is really cute and sweet, and it is like a cozy, intimate little guitar thing. But there's too much that comes on top of that isn't cozy. So first and foremost, a title that is still descriptive, but descriptive more in like kind of with using imagery and, not so much like this is what you're going to hear, is the first thing it's going to do is it just feels a little more polished. Second is that if you get it accidentally wrong, it's not going to be as glaring. But no, that's important because, like, look,
Right.
What we hear in our music is not always what other people hear. And that just happens. No matter how good you are, that just happens. And if you are really specific on what you're giving somebody and they don't hear that, they're going to be thrown off. Especially especially for, a cue, when they're thinking, that's what I need a cozy guitar cue. And if it's not, then... And they're going to be like irritated, like, why did you make me listen to that? You said it was cozy and it wasn't. So something that's more like, autumn wind, something like that, crackling fireplace, something that gives the idea of coziness without saying exactly what it is going to give you a little more leeway. So I thought the guitar was good. I didn't think the strings worked in quite well. I thought they came in too soon. I thought they kind of were just heavy. And it didn't, like when I'm thinking, acoustic, I'm thinking acoustic guitars, and it just didn't, yes, real strings are technically acoustic, but they're orchestral. So the way they were integrated into the song didn't feel like acoustic.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. I think, later on in the song, if there was one really warm, low cello, kind of just sort of bubbling under the surface, that could work, but the violins came up way too much. You had this like really nice structural development though. There was like the intro and it kind of moved, and there was the next section and something else came in, the next section, and that was really good because a lot of times instrumentals kind of wander a little too much, and that was really nice through the first pass. But then what happened, I found, is that in the second pass you weren't adding anything new, so it just felt repeated. So it's like you really want that structure, you want your like 3 sections, if you will, but when they come back around, if something hasn't changed, if you haven't added one element or taken away an element or varied one little riff or something, then it just feels like it's looped. We don't need to listen to the second half because we already listened to the first. We already listened to it.
And an editor, who is most frequently the person laying the music in on non-scripted reality TV, as we saw on stage at the rally last year with the young lady who was the editor, she would listen to something, go, okay, from an emotional standpoint and textural, it's the kind of thing I need, but it's not quite big enough. So let me move up to the second section to see if it got bigger.
Right.
And if it did, then she would just take that section.
Totally.
So that addresses what Brooke is speaking about, is if it just lays there and is static throughout, you're going to lose that placement because they're going to go, nah, nothing, no new development, nothing bigger, got to move on.
Yeah. I thought the shaker was too heavy. Bring that down. It was distracting.
It was fairly bright, too.
Yeah, it was really bright.
Like overly bright. It also, I had the feeling that this person is paying attention and is getting a lot of elements right. It just hasn't all come together, but it felt like the person who made this is on the cusp.
Yeah.
That there was definitely some stuff where, okay.
Yeah, they're paying attention.
yeah.
You could feel that, like, that all the ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
The execution was just not quite there yet, but
Right.
it will only get there by repeatedly doing this over and over.
Yeah.
Watch out for the pocket as well. It didn't, timing-wise, there were some things that were a little floaty that weren't on the beats. And obviously you don't want stuff to be so on the beats that it's overly quantized feeling if you were using a computer on it. It just felt a little loosey-goosey. Might want to check that out. But, again, anybody who knows the instrumental, production music library instrumental business would listen to this and go, okay, this person has the right idea. They're just not there in the execution yet.
Yeah.
So good work. Keep it coming. Moving on. This one takes the cake for best title of the day or longest title of the day. Sneaking around with a shot of tequila. you may have an alcohol problem. Excuse me. If you got to sneak, I'm just saying. Woohoo! If I may jump in with the most brilliant idea, I've got to say, I'm very proud of you. I don't know you, but I'm very proud of you for having this brilliant idea of taking a dramedy cue and making it Mexican. It's Mexity, I wrote down. I mean, they have urban dramedy cues. And, it took a little while to go, oh, those are supposed to be Mexican horns in there. There's a little bit of a Latin this or Latin that. It took a little too long to get to that stuff, but the idea is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea. And what I laughed is because I was like, the title, I had no idea what was coming. I'm like a little nervous. But this is exactly what I was talking about a descriptive title. It's it tells you what to expect without saying this is going to be a Latin influenced dramedy cue,
Right.
Sneaking around with tequila. That's so cute. It's so cute. I did think the Latin could be more obvious, the right word, just cleaner, maybe a little cleaner. It was kind of like, is that what you're going for? I felt like, you obviously, know how to write music and you know how to play instruments and you know what you're doing, and so I'm wondering if maybe you were trying to make it sure it's not too obvious, and I think maybe you need to go for it or not. Mm-hmm. And maybe have two versions. Maybe have one where you're sneaking around with tequila and one where you're sneaking around with vodka. Then,
the Russian version.
Well, no, not the Russian, but that's the American version. What's the American version? You're sneaking around with a beer.
Budweiser.
But yeah, I was totally writing that down about like the hip hop urban thing. If you're gonna do the Latin, I think maybe you could play with more of the urban in there with the Latin. I don't know, maybe not necessary, but I think it starts to feel a little towards the end. I kind of lost the vibe a little bit. It went a little too far off for me.
I remember 2/3 the way through when those horns came in, thinking, "Oh, it is supposed to be Mexican," but the horns sounded the sample was just so bad. You want those drunken trumpets that you hear in mariachi bands, and those were like trumpets on quaaludes, not drunken trumpets.
Well, it sounded more spy to me than Mexican. I felt like, it's going like 60s spy, which could work too, but no.
Yeah.
But then any of it needs to come in sooner, and it needs to sound more distinctive.
Yeah, it's non-committal to a point, and then you go, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then, but it's not executed really well, but the idea is frickin' brilliant.
The idea is super good, super good. And you know what? Even if you just took the first minute and a half or whatever, and this is a dramedy cue, great.
Yeah.
It is. Anything with 90 seconds dramedy cue before you get to the horns, then that totally nails it. it moves. It's got a good build. It's got good changes. Often we have listings that say things like stick to one melodic theme or motif throughout the song, and this is a really good example of getting that theme, nailing it down, but you don't like bash us over the head with it. We get it, we understand it, and then you give us a little variation from it, and so then when we come back, we're like, oh, there's that little theme again. So that was a really good composition on that.
This would be awesome if the Kardashians went to Cabo for the weekend. This would get used 3 times in one episode. Just
with better
brilliant.
horns.
Yeah, definitely better horns. But really, really brilliant idea. Okay, moving on. I'm guessing this next song was not played for this gentleman's wife because it's called Stray From You.
Winter wonder weather strong, and the ice is on the water. Never leave for very long. You are my blood, you are my brother. When I try. Try to sleep where I belong. I dream in blood, I dream in color. Oh no, when I try, when I hesitate, never
Okay. What are your thoughts?
You guys have got some pretty good comments over there. I had written down REM actually.
Sure you did. I know.
Yeah.
You're one of those guests that just looks at the chat and
Yeah.
that's my idea. No,
That is my idea.
she did have her stuff written down, but you guys,
Yeah.
they are on it. They
Some
are.
good ideas.
They're.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking? They're paying attention.
But there was in the riff, there was something that definitely reminds me of an REM melody.
Mm-hmm. Losing my religion, right?
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
The build up to the chorus. Yeah. So which is, not bad because REM is a pretty great band, but it's not super contemporary. So that's a problem. I felt like in the intro I was gonna hear like a country rock band song. And then I didn't. So that's like an issue in that, there's something really super cool about surprising somebody, but if you're surprised like completely outside of a genre, it's going to be just really hard to place it. It's terrible, this idea of like, well, they have, 3 different kinds of songs in mind and it has to fit just exactly. And it doesn't have to fit exactly, but the fact of the matter is supervisors are giving really little time to put stuff in, and directors want something that they want. So they kind of have to give them what they want, and as regardless of how like super creative they want to be, in a lot of situations they just can't. The other issue is also if you're imagining like a scene, there are certain characters that would listen to certain kinds of music, and there's a certain feel and vibe of the show. And if you go too far from that, as far as like what's a stylistic genre that we were used to hearing in music, it just doesn't make sense. And I worry that we've got too many ideas. I feel like there's 80s rock, there's 90s rock, then there's 90s alt rock, and then there's also country rock, which could be contemporary country rock but doesn't feel contemporary with the vocals. So I think these days, unfortunately, if you want to have a lot of guitars that really stand out, and country rock is the genre to do that in. Kind of the only one right now. So but the melody and the vocal style doesn't go in that direction. So
great sounding tom-tom from somebody who loves getting drum sounds in the studio. Great tom sound. And I've got to throw in a Michael Stipe story for you. I got upgraded on a flight from New York to LA one night. I was sitting up in first class, and all of a sudden my seatmate came down the aisle, sat down next to me. It was Michael Stipe. He was wearing a fluorescent orange Elmer Fudd hat with a fur lining.
Oh, yeah.
And sat down next to me, pulled the flaps down, went like this, sat in his seat, and sat like that for the next 5 hours. My thinking was, dude, if you don't want to be noticed, try not to wear the fluorescent orange hat on the flight next time. So anyway, just saying, yeah. Just saying, not much of anything other than stay away from fluorescent orange. Okay, moving on. We are on song number 10, which is called, it's an instrumental called The Final Push.
Starts out really good. I think the drums sound good at the top. The guitar sounds good at the top. It all sounds really good at the top, but then it goes on for too long. And I'm waiting for that little change in the theme or the next element to come in, something that, for whatever scene this is going behind.
That was my stomach.
like a box under the table.
Time to break out the gas axe. Woo.
Back to music. So I think that the intro goes on for too long, and then when the change happened, I didn't know what it was the first time I heard it, and then the second time it came in, I realized it was like sort of a prelude to the choir chanting that's going to come in. I was very kind of thrown by that, and I'm afraid that just one is going, whoa, like really just one tight little thing that kind of comes and goes. That was going to be distracting.
It felt like it added something dimensionally to the track, but it came so late. It's like, well, why
when
now?
the choir came in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that came in way too late if you're going to do that. I really liked the idea of that, but I felt like there were kind of two songs here. I felt like there was the acoustic guitar song, and the drum sounded good at the top, but then I felt like for like this kind of acoustic guitar, a focus song, they needed to be brought down. Somebody else needed to come over them. If they're going to have that much focus, then this is the choir song. This is like the chants and the drums, and then you can bring the strings in, and it's a different song. It's got a totally different vibe to it. I felt like there was this mix of this kind of lulling, pretty, and this more dramatic, darker, and I didn't think they both went together. I don't know what scene that would go in that has that sort of organic plus also this really dark vibe at the same time. It would be a hard mix, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the emotion or what it was almost a thing, but yet it wasn't a thing. It kind of reminded me of, I can't sing it, I would break the microphone, but there is a commercial that's on the air right now that's got a thing that's got what the vocals did on that choir, and that was one instrumental. You're right. It was two instrumentals.
Yeah.
And when they got glued together, it was like,
Yeah, it's too much of a change.
And the conga drum, I think that was conga, was a loop that just did the same thing from top to bottom, and that was the spoiler. Yeah. Because that alone will keep you out of contention, I'm afraid to say. It sounded good.
Yeah, the tone sounded good, but then after a while, it was like, oh boy.
Yeah, it was way up in the mix,
else,
and it became the central thing. It's like everything else was an addition, in addition to the conga. So. And
if you're going to have a central conga, which you absolutely can for the right track, then a lot more needs to happen to it. It needs to be built around that. And this wasn't.
Yep.
But.
Okay, next one. We've got 11 minutes to go. Should we keep listening to music, or should we open up for Q&A? So you guys think about that while we're listening to this one. Let us know. Bria, if you could keep an eye on that, let us know what the general consensus is. So this one is a song. It's a pop song. It's called Anything About Me.
Don't say too much.
write you a song says, "Is that a weather lyric?" I had to look down because it's got forecast unpredictable, clouds on the horizon. What'd you think?
I thought that it started off really, really good. I thought the guitar sound, I really liked the guitar at the top. I know it was like not perfect, but I liked that. I felt like it made me think that something specific was going to happen. Give me a specific kind of feel and indie vibe, and I really liked it. I thought that the percussion was unusual, but I think it was the right choice, the way it built in through the first part, and the piano worked in really nicely. So all in all, for most of the song, I thought the instrumentation was really good. I was worried about the contrast between the instrumentation and the vocal style. I felt like the song could go quite contemporary, but I felt like the vocal might be holding you back a little bit. It was, I mean, you've got a good voice, a good rock singing voice, lots of passion and energy, and it's awesome, but it was too dramatic, in my opinion, for the rest of what was going on.
It was a very Steve Perry-esque approach to something that was much more laid back than that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Incongruous.
It was a little too incongruous. And it's like, I totally get it. I mean, I look at the lyrics. I mean, yes, this is dramatic just because you bleed, and this is like dramatic stuff. But unfortunately, the way you set it up isn't that. You don't set up this kind of song. You set up this much more sort of mellow, introspective kind of indie vibe. And I think it gets away from you a little bit, and it just gets too big, dramatic rock, which I just don't think is going to be as marketable as if you pulled it back a lot and kept it. I would say probably keep it more indie singer-songwriter from what I hear at the beginning. I think if you really wanted to develop it more because you have the drama of the lyrics, then I think you'd have to really change the percussion a lot, but you could try going more indie pop with it, but I think that might be more trouble than it's worth. I think it'd be easier to take it more indie singer-songwriter because it sounds really good at the top. It's mellow, it's cool, it's relaxed. Like, I don't know, maybe less is more with this one. I don't know if I love Just Because You Bleed, but I don't know if I dislike it either. I don't know.
To me, it's just the vocal made it sound like it was from an era, bygone era.
Yeah.
And there could be a time and a place in a slot in a film for it that if they were looking for something that sounded vintage, it might work. But it's not a high probability placement because it sounds a little dated. It's not bad.
No.
It's not poorly executed. A little incongruous, but not poorly executed. And just so you know, a supervisor making a decision is not going to give it this much thought. We're trying to find things that could help it become something better. Mm-hmm. A supervisor would just react viscerally. Doesn't work in my scene. Yeah. They might think a simple, oh, it's kind of dated, and move on to something else. But they're not going to be analyzing, is it incongruous? Does the lyric do this? Does the lyric do that? More often than not, they're just going, no, not so much. Next. Yeah. Okay, what was the general vibe on music? Okay, we'll keep going on the music then. Next one is indie folk, and it's called Someone to You.
If I had a second chance, go back to where we began. I wouldn't be so rough. You were always such a tender man. I'd hold your heart so gently in my hands, darling. Don't you understand? Ooh. So many things that I wish I knew. I just wanna be someone to you. If we can't get past what we've been through, I still wanna be someone to you. Someone to you. If I had a second chance, I'd start a different. I rewrite a new scene and make our love a dream. I hold your heart so gently in my hands, darling, don't you understand? So many things that I wish I knew. I just wanna be someone to you. If we can't get past what we've been through, I still wanna be someone to you. Someone to you. This isn't painless, but we aren't blameless now. And we can change this, but we can work it out. So many things that I wish I knew. I just wanna be someone to you. If we can't get past what we've been through, I still wanna be someone to you. Someone to you. Someone to you. Someone to you.
And your thoughts, please?
So beautiful. Such a good song. So, so good. What I love is he's like, it's going to be indie folk. And I'm thinking, okay. And it is. But no, it's so important to know what your genre is. But it's really good. The really nice intro really sets the mood perfectly. But for whoever wrote this is indie folk, but this can also really work for singer-songwriter. Because I mean, it doesn't have the big clomping and stamping and banjo, so this can still be singer-songwriter for sure. For the right listings, check your references. Disclaimer. Brooke said I should submit it and it
That's right. So I'm going to send it in for every one of those for the rest of my life because Brooke said so.
Listen to the references. Okay, but the harmonies are so pretty on the chorus. I really love that. You don't have a huge, big standout sectional contrast in your chorus, so that harmony is really, really smart. You shouldn't in this song, by the way. And that harmony helps give you, helps the listener if they've tuned out a little bit. They're like, oh wait, now I'm listening to the chorus. Something new is happening. I should pay attention.
And it doesn't lose the emotion. You still feel the raw nerve of everything's gone to hell and they want to save it.
Oh, it's so good. The emotion is so good in this song. I'm hearing less or getting, there's a little bit less singer-songwriter being used than there used to be. 5-6 years ago, that was a singer-songwriter everywhere in film and TV, and they're branching out. Now, this is a singer-songwriter that would definitely get used. I think it pushes the boundaries just a little bit. This is not a singer-songwriter song that I think you would hear 5 years ago. I think the vocal style gives it just an additional kind of rawness and emotion that is really good. And a really, a lyric that is just gonna, how many scenes where this happens, Yeah. It's like you can say, well, it only works for breakup scenes. I'm like, well, that's only 80% of the scenes in television.
I was sitting there going through a list of shows that could use this. And every one of them was a breakup scene. Every one of them is a montage because it tells the story that the script doesn't tell in a montage. For those of you who don't know, in our weekly Watchers of Taxi TV, a montage is usually that minute to 2 minute long thing near the end of an hour drama that ties up the emotion and the storyline for the whole thing and does it with the lyric of a song instead of a script. And this does it beautifully.
Does it so well. And what I really like about this is this could even start in a scene where there's dialogue and action going on. I was thinking The Resident first came to mind. It's kind of gritty doctor show, and it came to mind because there's I feel like it could be brought in where the two main characters are having an argument or something, and then they storm off, and then it gets brought up, so it can sit behind the dialogue, and then it could really just push the scene forward. Really good. Beautiful.
I love the line, "This isn't painless, but we aren't blameless now." It's great.
Yeah, it's good.
Very rhymey, but not in a corny way at all. And it just hits that nerve. Does it really, really well. Okay, moving on. This one is called Mississippi Train. I can't read lips.
Locomotive burning down the tracks, rolling highway 11, and you know I'm headed back. Got the radio playing Johnny Cash. You know I gotta go and get my baby back.
Oh, Mississippi train.
Feel the vibration from the ground in my veins.
Oh, Mississippi train.
Hear that morning whistle from a mile away.
Oh, Mississippi train. Mississippi train.
Put the pedal, the metal to the floor. Gotta beat the Mississippi train once more. See little mama in some cut off shorts, waiting for me down on a front porch.
Oh, Mississippi train.
Feel the vibration from the ground in my veins.
Oh, Mississippi train.
Hear that morning whistle from a mile away.
Oh, Mississippi train.
Baby, made it fast, you playing Russian roulette with my life. My heart is racing as I make it to the other
Mississippi train. Oh, Mississippi train.
Feel the vibration from the ground.
What'd you think?
So look, it's super fun, right?
Yep.
The melody is catchy. The female vocals are great. They really add this like energy to it. I mean, I'm like at the Floribama dancing, right? It's just perfect. But so great for the Floribama. For licensing, might be harder. I mean, it's really specific in so many ways. It's really specific. Decade-wise, if you will, not necessarily contemporary. Now, here's the thing about that, though. If it's not contemporary, it needs for licensing, as long as it really sounds not contemporary, then it's okay. You know what I mean? If you're mixing, it's like, well, the vocal doesn't sound contemporary. I can tell it was written now, but it feels. Then that's trickier. If you really sounds like it was written, you know, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, and it really sounds like a specific genre, then, you know, it can get used for placements when they really need something like that. And I think this gets it pretty close as far as sounding cohesive and consistent, but you've got a really specific style in a really specific era with a pretty specific lyric, and that's pretty specific. So I think it's just going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky to get it to work, but to find a scene where it would fit, but also to not be on the nose. Because if you're on a Mississippi train, you can't use this. But
Right.
if you're not, then you can't. It
People,
might be
directors, producers, music
Yeah.
supervisors, on the nose means it's just so obvious, and they shy away from that because they think it's cheesy. However, this brings us full circle to something we talked about at the beginning of the show, which is there are different kinds of uses. An intimate singer-songwriter thing that tells a story, like the last one that we heard, would be great for a montage where the song carries the story. The lyric is so important to that and the emotion. This is what's a source, background source thing, where people are in a line dancing bar and they're having a conversation, and 50 feet away is music playing on a jukebox or from the stage on the other side of that bar, and you're not paying attention to the lyric. You're only paying attention to the overall vibe because it puts you in that bar with peanut shells on the floor and the stench of beer everywhere.
Yeah, source music could totally work. I was totally imagining it like blaring out the stereo of like some late model car, like some, you know, car in a big car chase, you know.
Smokey and the Bandit 27.
But yeah, I didn't even think like, definitely like a jukebox thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you can get away with not contemporary for that.
sure.
Because people will listen to it's more about the toe tapping quotient and the good old boy vibe than it is anything else.
And it does, and it has that, and it sounds cohesive to what it is. It sounds like it was actually written to sound like this in a specific time. It's not trying to sound like something else.
Yeah.
So that's good. I think
And
it has
with that, we
potential.
should wrap it up because we're already 8 minutes over,
Oh
or
my
9
gosh.
minutes over. But
That went fast.
thank you. It really did.
Yeah.
It's like we could do another hour, right?
Sure.
Brooke, you're so good at this.
yeah.
One of these days, I've got to have like a round table with you and Robin, and if Scott's ever back in town, the three of you would make such an awesome round table to talk about the different types of uses and to draw these comparisons about this type of song would work great for montage, another kind of song would work great for background source, because something that could work great for one doesn't necessarily and probably won't work really well for the other. So you have to think about the range of possibilities for a song, not just it's good for a music supervisor or it isn't. There's always hope somewhere.
Yeah.
Not always, I'm lying. There's sometimes hope.
There's always hope. You may have to rework some things.
Yeah, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help you make it wonderful. So I almost had a music supervisor to join us for next week, but now he can't, so we're pushing that back. So I really don't know what we're doing next week, but I'll be here. I hope you will be here. And with that, thank you very much
Thank you.
for being here
Yes.
today.
Thank you guys. Thanks for listening to
And-
my bad jokes.
I'm going to go get some food because I'm starving. See you next week.